Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wonderful World of Knitting podcast. Hi, hello. Yes, any returning viewers, welcome back. Any new viewers, welcome to my channel. My name is Kathleen and this is the Wonderful World of Knitting podcast. So yes, welcome back. It has been a little while. It's been a few weeks, 5 or 6 weeks. So yes, a lot going on. So first of all, before I get into the knitting, I just want to say to everyone out there, a very big thank you from the bottom of my heart. Honestly, it made me so happy, and the knowledge that people actually enjoy this content, they enjoy my videos, my knitting. So yes, a big thank you for watching, for liking my videos and for subscribing. There has been a huge increase since my last video, so I don't know what happened out there, but anyway, that's all I guess up to the YouTube algorithm as well. I'm a bit nervous again because it has been so long, but yes, so really thank you. It's just amazing. Thanks guys for that and for leaving comments. And yeah, it's just really mind-blowing that people, you guys, you knitters, you like my videos. We do have one thing in common, which is knitting, which is yarn, and I guess that brings us all together, right? That passion. So yeah, thank you for that. Anything else I should mention? Any admin, any housekeeping? I think, yes, as I said, it has been a few weeks. August is very, very busy, but I will get into that later. I'm going to do a little bit of a live update section at the end, and then I can tell you guys what's been happening. But so, yeah, there we are. That's episode 5, and I think we're going to jump straight in now, shall we? First, I want to do... because now we have a show and tell section. I think that's a nice thing to do. In the show and tell section, I basically just show everything that I knitted since I started knitting 10 years ago. And so in today's show and tell section is this beauty. So this is a table runner for our dining table. Yes, I admit the color pink is a little unfortunate for a dining table, but my family, they don't seem to mind, so especially as I have 2 daughters, I love pink too. So yeah, so this is a table runner that I knitted a few years back. It is square. So a little bit about the construction. You start in the center, you you cast on with just a couple of stitches. I can't remember exactly how many, but it's only very few. I think it might actually be a pinhole cast on, I believe they are called. Let me show this up a bit more so you can see. So you start here and then you work your way out in 4 corners. And in those 4 corners, so let's say the 4 corners are here, and you increase in every second round, and that gives you the square shape. So this is not a pattern as such, however it is from a book. So I just want to show this once again and just explain. So basically what you will do is, so here are the increases that one, so you would have 2 yarn overs. So yeah, so you have in each corner you have these yarn overs, and this is what gives the shape. So let me show you the book where I got that from. So as I mentioned previously, I'm a big fan of Elizabeth Zimmermann, and it's from this book here, Elizabeth Zimmermann's Knitter's Almanac. She has long since passed away, but she was kind of a pioneer in the knitting world. She was one of the first that actually wrote patterns for knitting, so in the round knitting patterns. And they kept, when she tried to publish those in the round patterns, they actually kept changing it back to flat patterns, working in the flat patterns. And so they modified her patterns for working back in the flat. So that's just a very brief summary and just a very brief example of why this woman is so amazing, or was amazing. And so they kept, so the publishers, the magazines or whoever, they kept changing it back to working in the flat. And so she got really fed up with that. And that's when she actually started to send out her own newsletters. And that's when it all became more public and viral. And that's another lady that also is a believer and that actually came up with the idea of knitting around is Barbara, but I cannot remember her surname now. So this is Elizabeth Zimmermann, another one is Barbara, and I'm gonna put the surname down below, the full name. She actually did a book called Knitting from the Top. Barbara something, Knitting from the Top. So these are the two ladies that that came up with, or they pushed for their way of knitting around. Anyway, I don't want to go off on a tangent here. So this is from this book, the square, the table runner that I did, and you can also actually use it as a shawl. And the one that I did is the square shawl. Yeah, the square shawl, and it describes, so this is not a pattern book, but it describes in text what you need to do. And then at the end of each chapter, it does give you brief instructions as well. Yeah, so that's that one. So it can either be a shawl, obviously. You can you start here and then you just work for as long as you want. So you can also make this much bigger so that it ends up as a shawl, and you can use it as a square shawl. I'm not a fan of square shawls as they are a bit difficult to wear, but yeah, I've used it as a table runner. Also, just to explain what I've done here in the middle, so the instructions only explain how to actually do the construction of it. They only explain how to do the increases. So you then left in each corner, you left with a lot of stockinette stitch. So what you can do, and what I have done with this one, is I've added my own pattern into each of them. So you can see here that I've knitted, I've knitted this pattern, which is almost like a flower pattern. And I've also added this pattern here, which I have from a stitch dictionary. You can see that it is actually not centered. So this is the beauty of doing things yourself, and I guess doing your own designs. Sometimes it comes out being not perfect, but this is the nature of homemade things as well, that sometimes you make mistakes, sometimes it's not symmetric, sometimes it looks a bit wonky, but in this case it doesn't really matter as it's just a table runner. But you can see here that on this side there are too many stitches than there are on this side, so it is not centered because I added this pattern here in the middle, and obviously I did not do the muffs right in order to get this centered. But yeah, that's the one. That was my quick show and tell. Yes, so what is next? Next, you can all see the garment that I'm wearing. So it's the elephant in the room. Let's address the elephant in the room. I am wearing my finished object. Oh gosh, I'm so nervous today. Like I'm doing this for the first time. Apologies. I have to calm down. So I'm wearing the Brise. I'm just going to stand up. This is a summer garment, right? The Brise that I finished 2 weeks ago now, or one week ago. And it is by, I totally forgot the name of the designer now. I'm going to put it below. So it's the Breezy Tea. It is a summer top. It is knit in a cotton and linen yarn. I do actually show it in my previous episode, so if you're interested. But I have all the details here. I'm knitting it in the Sandnes Garn liner, and I've used this color. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. It feels so light and airy, and it's actually my very first summer garment that I knitted. So far I've only done pullovers and other knits, but this is my first summer garment, and I'm really happy with how it came out. So the construction, it's all knitted in the round. You start here, and it's a patterned yoke, as you can see, and you incorporate the increases all around the yoke, and it has a bit of a cable pattern here and some lace and even some bobbles. It's the first time for me that I've done bobbles as well, so that was fun, even though they take a lot of time. And yeah, what else? With this one, actually, is really funny and lovely story. So one of my Instagram friends, Jana's Knits, I believe she lives in the US. She actually got inspired by my previous episode, and she also wanted to knit the Breezy Tea. So we messaged each other. She messaged me saying, hey, you know, you really inspired me. I'm gonna knit the Brise as well. And so around the same time, actually after me, she started casting on the Brise. And so we decided to have a two-persons cull on this one. And it was a lot of fun. We exchanged pictures. And yeah, that was great. That was actually my first cull that I ever joined. She knitted her Brise in the drop spell. Not in this color though, I don't believe. In the drop spell. So she used this yarn. I've used the Sandnes Garn liner, and the yarn composition is exactly the same. Exactly the same. It is 53% cotton, 33% viscose, and 14% linen. And they're both 50 gram each. You can see the drop spell is a lot smaller than the Sandnes Garn, and it's both 50 gram. I believe the bell has actually 10 meters more, so the bell is actually ever so slightly thinner excuse me, than the Sandnes Garn. And so yeah, they're very similar, but I would say that the bell is a bit sturdier, and so it's a bit sturdier, and it doesn't break as easily as the Sandnes Garn. So yeah, because it's thinner, you get more length for the same weight. And so I've actually ordered the drop spell for a new cast on that I've done yesterday, but I will talk about that in a moment. So yeah, something else to say about this kind of yarn, cotton and linen yarn. I've heard, and I have myself experienced this as well, that these types of that these fibers, cotton and linen, they are non-animal fibers. Yes, apologies. I had to actually stop and put the fan on because I got really hot. We're still kind of in a heat wave here in England. It was really hot. I had to switch on the fan. So what I was saying, with these cotton and linen yarns, non-animal yarns, after washing they get extremely hard and stiff. So Jana actually gave me some really good advice. What you can do is, when you wash them afterwards, put your garment, your finished garment, into the tumble dryer. If you don't have a tumble dryer, what you can do is, during the drying process, keep shaking it, moving it. So the moving of the fibers actually softens the yarn, the fibers, and then it's not so stiff anymore when it's finished. So Jana gave me that advice, and that actually makes total sense to me. So I have not blocked this one yet, but when I block it, I'm going to definitely give this a go. We don't actually have a tumble dryer, but I might just keep shaking it during drying, see how that goes. So yeah, that's that. And also, as I've mentioned, the call that I did with Jana, I'm going to add 2 pictures in here now as well that will show our 2 Brise together. Jana knitted it in a kind of a, similar to this color actually. I'm not sure if she went for this color, but it's very similar to that color. And obviously mine is knit in a very light lavender color. So that's the Brise, my first summer garment, and I couldn't be more happy with it. Yes. So on to my second finished object. It's actually only a half finished object. So it's my twin flower socks, I believe the pattern is called. I talk about these socks in great deal in my last episode. I believe it's the twin flower socks, yes. By I'm not very good with names today. I will put the name on the bottom as well and in the show notes and everything. But let me show you. Ta-da! So this is my, I believe, twin flower socks. It is such a lovely sock. Look at this beautiful pattern. I hope it comes out on camera okay. It's very beautiful. It's so cuff down. You start here with the cuff and you do this. It's a 53 round pattern. You knit the 53 rounds down and then you do a heel flap. Then you're going to do the gusset decreases here, and then you knit the foot, and you do decreases here as well for the toe, and then you just do the Kitchener stitch. So I have only ever once done a cuff down socks many years ago when I first ever knit, when I knitted my first pair of socks. And since then I've only actually done toe up socks. I prefer toe up socks actually, because basically when I do a toe up, then I would do a very stretchy binder for the cuff. However, what I have tried many different methods of casting on. Of course, when you do cuff down, you cast on here, but I still find they are a bit too tight, and I struggle to actually put them, well, not struggle, but it feels a bit tight to put it on my feet. So I find the cast on is not as, my cast on is not as stretchy as my bind off. So that's also a reason why I prefer toe up, because I always find the cast ons, they are too tight, and then you start to knit down, and I find I don't have a chance again to correct it until I only notice until the sock is finished and until I try it on. However, with the bind off, the sock is finished and you can always rip out the bind off and do the bind off in order to make it really stretchy. So that's another reason why I prefer to do toe up socks. This one, as I said, was a cuff down, and it was great fun knitting them. I have already cast on the second sock. This is the yarn, lovely color. The yarn is called Botanical yarn, and this here is my second sock. So this is the cuff that I started here already, and I'm knitting them on my flexible, on my higher sharp flexible needles. So that was that one. And my next work in progress is, I have a bit of an update there, is my puff tee. I'm hoping I will be able to show you in the next episode, show you the puff tee as a finished object. I've been knitting on my puff tee now, well, it's been on the needles. Obviously with the other projects I'm knitting on, you put the project down and then, you know, you start knitting other things. So it's been on my needles for a little while now, quite a few weeks, but I am making progress. I would like to show you now that progress. So this is the puff tee, and I'm knitting it with a Rowan yarn, Rowan felted tweed. and I'm going to show you my progress. I have to straighten this out now. Right, so last time I had the body finished and only the sleeves to do now, so I'm working on the sleeves. And there we are. There it is. I'm knitting the sleeves at the same time. So what I have here, let's start here. So there's a cord along, this is really hard to show. On this side I have the needles hanging out and the cord goes all the way to the other sleeve. So I am knitting the sleeves at the same time. That way you can actually finish the sleeves much quicker and then they're done. I'm one of these knitters that probably suffer from second sock syndrome or in this case second sleeve syndrome. So that's why I'm knitting them at the same time. Because then you don't have to go back and knit the second sleeve. That's so annoying. You don't want to go back and knit the second sleeve, do you? I don't. So yeah, I'm knitting them at the same time, and with this, it's the puff tee, so it has these slightly waist sleeves here. So you do a saddle. It's a saddle construction, saddle sleeve construction. But anyway, just briefly want to say that with this project I actually had quite a few firsts. The first was a folded neckband. I had never done that before. The second first was an Italian bind-off at the bottom here. But I don't think with the Italian bind-off that you actually get a lot of bang for your buck. I don't think so. So I won't do that again. And also the third first is the saddle sleeve. I had never done a saddle sleeve. I think it really looks nice. And the fourth first is that I've actually changed the gauge of this project. So I'm knitting this at 24 stitches, I believe, per 10 centimeters. But the pattern calls for, I believe, 20 stitches. So I wanted to use this yarn, so that's why I had to change the gauge. Also, I'm quite actually a tight knitter, so I would never have achieved this gauge with this yarn. So that's why I had to change the gauge basically. But I'm hoping that once it's finished, that I want this to be a winter pullover. The pattern actually only, in the pattern it's only with short sleeves. So the pattern calls for wibbing actually just a few rounds after picking up stitches, but I'm knitting my sleeves much longer. I think I will probably do a 3/4 length sleeve. And I'm doing that because the Rowan felted tweed is quite scratchy. It's quite a rustic and warm yarn. I can't remember now the exact yarn composition. It's definitely wool in there, and then something else. I can put it down below. So yeah, it's quite a warm garment, so it definitely has to have long sleeves. I find there's no point knitting a woolly warm sweater and then only have short sleeves. That would be too warm for the summer. But yeah, in the winter it'll be great. The only thing at the moment I don't like is actually the waist shaping that I had done. So here then it's actually around the waist, it's quite tight. So I'm going to block this aggressively and block out the wibbing. So yeah, that will be done in the next episode. But it was an enjoyable, it's an enjoyable knit, this one. I would recommend them. Right, next I have to take a drink. I made myself an iced cappuccino that I'm enjoying now. Grab yourself a drink as well if you like. Get comfortable, because we have a couple of things still to discuss and to show you. So the next project that I have, which is only really a cast on that I did yesterday. So let me tell you how this came about. So this is actually this is going to be my first garment that I'm actually knitting for somebody else. other than myself and other than my children. This is a garment, a top, a summer top that I will be knitting for my friend for her birthday. So her birthday is in November, and I want to get ahead of the game. I wanted to start knitting this now, because when I met her last time, we talked about my knitting, and then I suggested I could knit her a garment for her birthday, and she really liked the idea. So I had to browse around and see what I can knit for my friend. So I found a pattern. I sent her the picture, and she said I really like it. And so because it's a summer garment, and because Jana had used the drop spell, I wanted to give this yarn a go as well, so I can directly compare it with this yarn, them being exactly the same yarn, which is cotton, linen and viscose. So this next project that I'm showing you, let me show you the yarn first as I'm talking about the yarn. I showed this one earlier already, I believe. It's the drop spell. And so Jana had done her Brise in this one, and so I wanted to give it a go and see which one I like more, because I wasn't particularly pleased with this yarn here, but we shall see how this one works up. So anyway, so back to the project. So I found a nice top. It's a free pattern. It's a summer top. And so I sent her the picture. She said, yeah. And I sent her a link of the yarn, and she chose her own color. So I know exactly she will like it because she chose the color. And so I knitted an itty bitty swatch. There is my itty bitty swatch. I am not a fan of swatching. However, I do it because, of course, you know, I don't want to end up with a too small or too large project in the end. So I have these hanging down here. For anyone out there that doesn't know this, so because I'm going to knit this top in the round, you also have to swatch in the round. What that means is, when you knit back and forth, you essentially knit a row and you purl a row. Your purl stitches will have a different gauge to adjust knit stitches. So when you knit in the round, of course you only just do the knit stitch. So that's why when you swatch and you're going to actually knit the finished object in the round, you also have to swatch in the round to get the same gauge, because your gauge can be different if you knit it flat. So to actually swatch in the round, you don't have to actually physically knit in the round for that swatch. What you can do is it still is a square, as you can see, but what you do is, first I would knit a few rounds garter, because then it lies flat and it doesn't curl up. And then what I do is I knit around, but then I don't actually turn the work. What I do is, on my either double points or on circular needle, I move the work to the other end of to the other needle. So you move it onto the cable and onto the other needle, so that the knit stitches still face you. And then you carry the yarn across at the back very loosely, and you knit. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but you can look that up on YouTube if you're interested. I hope I explained this right. So basically, these ends here that are hanging out, they were connected like that, because you float the yarn all along the back of the work. And then when I blocked it, I just cut this. So I knitted this itty bitty sample, and the pattern I'm doing calls for 21 stitches per 10 centimeters. I got 22 stitches, even though I'm already used a needle up. As I said before, I'm quite a tight knitter, so I know I always have to go up in the needle size. So when I start swatching, I already incorporate that, and with almost all patterns I would go up in the needle size. And so I still had 22 stitches, even though I've used 4.5 millimeter. The pattern called for 3.5 millimeter. So in order to get 21 stitches, I still have to change my gauge. I still have to go up in the needle size. So ultimately that means I've swatched this on 4.5, and so I've decided I only need one more stitch. So I'm going to go up to 5 millimeter needle. and so I'm not going to bother now and knit another swatch. So yeah, this will give me more or less the right size. And because so it's the first time, as I said, that I'm knitting a garment for somebody else other than myself or my children. When I knit for myself and for my children are quite young, so they are of course with me, and so I can measure them, I can try on the garment, and I can see how it fits. You can decide on the length, so you can keep trying it on as you knit. But now that I'm actually knitting for a friend who I'm not seeing for a few weeks now, she's actually on holiday, it's going to be difficult to get the size right, to make sure that the garment fits her in the end, because she gets this as a birthday present in November. So if you have any suggestions, any tips or anything, what do you do as a knitter when you knit for someone who's actually not there with you in order to try it on? What do you do? Is there maybe some magic trick that you can use to make sure that it will actually fit in the end? I mean, imagine you spend all this time knitting and then you give this the finished object to your friend or to your mom or whoever, and then it doesn't fit. You know, that's quite disappointing, not just for us knitters, but also for the person who receives the gift. So of course what I'm doing is I've asked her for her bust measurement, so she gave me her bust measurement, so I know I've got the right size there. But the question here is more about the length really, and I know she is taller than me, so I'm gonna go for the long version of this, because in this pattern has two suggestions, either a cropped version or a long version. And I'm going to show you the pattern now because I've been talking forever about this project. So I'm knitting the, again I forgot the name of the pattern, the Tip Top Tank, and it's this summer top here with no sleeves, haha, as I don't like knitting sleeves, haha. So it's a free pattern if you're interested. I think this is also quite suitable for beginner knitters as well. It's worked bottom up, and also it will have a split hem here. It will have a split hem, so you knit first you knit back and forth the front hem and the back hem back and forth separately, and then you join them together, at which point you start knitting in the round. And so yeah, anyway, so this one is at 21 stitches per 10 centimeters. It's all stocking stitch. It's very detailed. It actually even gives you both instructions for knitting in the round as well as knitting flat. That's really great as well. It is also size inclusive, and it's by Maker. Free pattern, so feel free to go to onto Ravelry and download it. I will put the link below for you. So this should be a quick knit as well. And as I said, I'm knitting this in the drop spell. And yeah, we'll see how this comes out. I have actually, let me show you the cast on, because I've cast it on. So this is literally only the cast on that I have so far. You might be wondering why I have stitch markers here already in the cast on. What I do is because I need 91 stitches. When you have a large number of stitches to cast on, I don't want to keep counting in my head 43, 44, 45. So what I do is I cast on 10 stitches, which you have to count of course as you cast on, but then I put a stitch marker every 10 stitches, so I don't have to go back and count them again. So I know exactly that each section here is 10 stitches, so 20, 30, 40, so you don't have to count them again. So 91 stitches, and I'm going to knit on this tonight. So yeah, so that's hers. It's a beautiful, beautiful color. And I have actually ordered, at that time I have ordered another color. So I'm planning also to make that same top for myself as well. And I'm using this lovely, what's the colorway here? Color 11, drop spell, this is color 11. I think it's called something with pink. I can't remember the exact name of it, but something with pink. So this is the one I'll be making for myself. This is the one I'll be making for my friend. And yes, her birthday is in November, but I'm knitting her a summer top because there will be a summer of 2023, so she can wear it then. Yes, I'm not so much into seasonal knitting. I really don't care. I knit wool pullovers in the summer, and I knit, well, I'm started knitting summer tops for well, not for the winter. It's going to be for the summer, but yeah. Anyway, I don't really care. You know, I knit whatever I want to knit. So yes, so that's that. Yes, so as I said, if you have any tips regards sizing a garment for someone who is not with you physically, give me any. Please, if you have any suggestions for me, then please just comment below. That would be great. Thank you. So yes, and the last one. This is actually not a cast on yet. I wish it was. The last one. I'm really keen on this one as well. So about 2 days ago, I came across a lovely podcaster. I think she is called Sylvia Knits in Color, and this is a lovely lady in Paris. She's only been knitting for less than a year, but she's quite obsessed, I can see. So anyway, I came across her podcast. Check her out. She's really lovely, down to earth. And so I came across her podcast. I watched her first episode, and really liked one of the, well, I like all of them, but one of the patterns that she's knitting is this one, and this is a paid for pattern, so I can't show too much, but let me see. This is the Whipple Crop Top Worsted. Let me show you there. I don't want to show too much. There we go. The Whipple Crop Top Worsted by Jessie Made. That would be my very first Jessie Made pattern. I have heard loads already about this great designer. She has lots of patterns out there. And when I saw Sylvia, she had already, I think, finished at least 2 of those. And when I saw her wear the... She was actually wearing it, I believe, in her podcast, episode 1. And when I saw her wear it, I really liked the design, the look of it. And so this is definitely what I'll be knitting next. And also I decided to knit that because I have the perfect yarn for that. I think it's about a DK weight yarn that is needed. And I have this gorgeous yarn from Sakami. Sakami is an indie dyer in the UK. And I really like this color. Very lovely color. So I have a few hanks of those, and this will be perfect and will look stunning for this top. So I think I'm gonna probably start swatching tonight and see how it goes. And so yeah, cast that on as well. So yes, that was all the knitting, my friends, that I have for you today. So yes, I think this will probably bring me to almost live updates in the end, for anyone who is interested. But first, a few announcements or general updates for you, or things that I want to tell you or talk about. So I want to start with old knits. I want to talk about that. Because as I sit there knitting on my works in progress, I sometimes think about old knits as you do, or when you take them out and you have an old project that you maybe even knitted many years ago. So I want to talk about, because I was thinking about that. Basically I started thinking about what old knits mean to me. And I wanted to discuss that with you and to find out also what is your opinion on that. So this is my thinking. Obviously, as a knitter, you always live for the works in progress. You live for the new casts on. This is what gets you excited. A new pattern, a new construction, a new color, a new yarn, a new fiber, a new look. So this is what we really get excited about. Right there in the moment, the knitting and the finished objects. this is really what we love. So it's almost like your knitting is only as good as your last knits in a way, or what you're currently knitting, because we're very passionate about new cast-ons, and we keep queuing projects in Ravelry. My Ravelry favorites is really long, so I want to talk about comparing this importance and the love we have for our current knits. I want to compare that to our previous knits that we've done in the past, because basically what I've decided for myself in my mind, and also I had to think of the reason as to why my old knits are so important for me, because I've heard other podcasters sometimes say that they gift their old knits to someone else or give them to charity. So the way for myself, how I see it, if I knit something for charity, then yeah, obviously they will go to charity and things like that. But any of my old knits that I've done in the past, doesn't matter how long ago, even if it's 10 or 20 years ago. In fact, I suppose even the older the knits are, for me, they grow in value, which is a personal value and emotional value. So I would struggle giving my old knits away to somebody else. So if I purposefully knit something for someone, for my children, or in this case now for my friend, then I think it's ever so slightly difficult to part with that knit, even if you have knitted it for someone else. So I'm quite a selfish knitter, and I mainly knit for myself. So it's you're almost a bit sad to give the knit away. But then with old knits that you've done for yourself, maybe a blanket or even a toy or a table runner. So what I'm saying is I could never give away an old project that I knitted for myself, even if it doesn't fit anymore. So I've got some very old projects that I really don't wear. I show my first 2 sweaters that I knit in my first 2 episodes, and they're actually, in a sense, they're not wearable, because that brown sweater that I believe I show in episode 2, it's very oversized. That blue sweater that I show in episode 1, I decreased around the waist drastically, so it's visible. So even though I have old knits that I actually don't wear, I could never give them away. And the reason being why my old knits are still so important for me, and why I think we should cherish our old projects, our old knits that are sitting up in the loft. The reason why we should cherish them, I found out recently, this is kind of something that I didn't understand. Why is this so important to me? Why do I still like this? Why do I want to keep this pullover, even though it is sitting up in the loft and you don't use it? For me personally, and as I said, this is kind of a discussion that I want to open, and I want to find out how other knitters see that. So the reason for me, I keep rattling on, sorry, I will come to a point. I'm going to tell you now, the reason why these are so important for me personally is because every knit that I do, I get attached to emotionally, because I don't have a good memory with certain things. Many things I forget. And even if I play a memory game with my children, she always picks the cards. I can never remember where the cards are. So certain things I forget, and I don't have a great memory. But I think I have a great emotional memory in that sense. So I basically remember with each item that I knitted in the past, I remember at what stage I was in my life. I remember where I was. Like, for example, with the old knits that I did more than 3 years ago, I remember myself sitting in that second bedroom and knitting on that shawl. And I remember that every evening when I was knitting on that shawl, my eldest daughter, who is now 7, was a baby back then, and she would wake up in the evening, she would cry. And I remember how annoyed I got when I was in the middle of a difficult round, and my baby back then, my firstborn, was crying, and I had to put my project down and I had to go to her. So all these things I remember. So each item, as I said, I knit, I attach, there's a memory attached to it. You remember where you wear, you remember how you wear, because you go through stages in your life, I think, and each stage is different. Some are very bad for some people. Sometimes you are in a very good stage for a long period of time, and we are blessed. I feel grateful for that, and we are blessed, and we have to just take it as things come to us and make the best of it. But yeah, when we knit, I mean, that is how it is for me. I get attached to that item because there are memories attached to it. I remember when I knitted, I'm going to show this one in another episode, I knitted a beautiful purple lace cardigan, and that was over a year ago, I believe now. And I remember sitting in the dining room on this uncomfortable chair. And so anyway, so this is why I think we should cherish our old knits, and why I don't like to give away old knits. So yes, this is just something that I kind of wanted to throw out there, and I think it's a nice thought, because they help us remember these items. When you look at an old project, you remember yourself knitting it because you spend so much time on this. This is, I think, what is also so great about knitting, because obviously knitting takes a long time. Crocheting is a lot quicker. Sewing is a lot quicker. With knitting takes time, and because it takes time, I actually see this almost as a benefit, as an advantage in knitting. Because it takes time, you build up a small relationship with this project, and it's an emotional thing. That's, I think, only only emotional people will understand what I'm talking about. So yes, this brings that discussion to a close, and I want to move on to the next update that I wanted to share. So I got my tickets now for the Knitting and Stitching show that will take place in London at the, I think it's called the Alexandra Palace, in October. So I bought some tickets for the Knitting and Stitching show. As the name tells you, it's a knitting and stitching event. So lots of indie dyers and yarn brands will be there, and everything related to fibers, fiber art, and any sort of stitching craft, really. So I've got tickets for that, and I'm super excited. I had already been to the Knitting and Stitching show once before. I had been before my daughters were born, so quite a long time ago, over 8 years ago. And I remember back then I bought so much yarn, and some of that yarn, I must admit, is still sitting in my stash. And back then I was new to knitting, so I actually went on a workshop as well at the Knitting and Stitching show. And I remember I knitted a fingerless cloth. That was the workshop that I went to, and that was actually quite disappointing, that workshop, because they all just basically gave us the yarn and the needle to knit it. But then, because we hadn't done a swatch, my gloves actually didn't fit me. But anyway, that's just a memory back then. And so this time I also booked myself onto a workshop. And it's actually a sewing workshop. So I don't think I will become a sewer. I'm purely into my knitting and wool craft. Not so much crochet, it's just really for me the knitting. I'm a knitter through and through, so I will not become a sewer. But I simply just signed up for this workshop because I couldn't have gone to any other workshop, if that makes sense. I'm quite an experienced knitter now, and there wasn't any workshops that I could have gone to where I would say, yes, that teaches me something. I mean, I can do vereil, I can do difficult constructions, I can do pattern and chart reading. The more I knit now, obviously, I got more experienced over the last 2 years. So I couldn't have signed up to any knitting workshops. So I thought, just for the fun of it, let me sign up for this sewing workshop. And the one I went for is it's for intermediate sewers, and I hope I'm not over my head in this one. So it actually requires basic sewing skills on a sewing machine, and the one I went for is the knitting your own tote bag. And it does say for intermediate, requires some basic sewing machine skills. So if you have any suggestions, any advice on how I can quickly get these skills, we actually do have an old sewing machine up in the loft, but I wouldn't know how to work it and where to get started, because my partner's family, his mom, she used to sew for a living actually in the past, but now she does not sew anymore, so I don't want to trouble her. But even my partner, I think he actually in the past he had helped his mom when he was a very young boy, adult, I don't know. So he helped his mom. So I might actually trouble my partner, and he might actually be able to show me some skills on the sewing machine. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, and I cannot wait. This is something that I will purely do for myself. The knitting is the one selfish thing that I do. As I work full time, I have 2 children, so I give a lot to other people, and knitting is the only thing where I can say, oh yes, I'm sitting down now and I'm doing something for myself, because self-care in this day and age is so important. Otherwise, how can I take care of my children? How can I be happy and give them everything that they need if I'm not happy? So knitting makes me happy. So yes, and I wanted to mention a few of the podcasts, and I have to look at my notes here, I'm sorry. Yes, so basically I wanted to mention a few of the podcasts that I watch on YouTube that I really enjoy, and you may have heard of them, you may watch them as well, I don't know, let me know. So the podcasts that I really enjoy, and obviously there are many more out there, and probably I have not come across, well, I don't know how many knitting podcasts are out there, but you do come across some, and then you give them a try, you watch them. But anyway, before I rumble on again, so the knitting podcast that I enjoy is the Knitting with Katia podcast with Nikki. She's great, and she did the Chestnut Cardigan by Mary Wallen, and that one is actually in my favorites as well. And Nikki, I will be knitting this one hopefully. Maybe in the winter time, we shall see. And so I'm hoping also to join the Marie Wallen Cow. Another year of Marie Wallen knits. Then I also watch Fruity Knitting on Andrea. She and her daughter, they're really lovely as well. I watch the Knitting Traditions podcast, Inga. And then I watch the Merryweather Knitting podcast, and her name is Gabriella. And I think she just had a baby as well, I believe, as her second baby. And then I watch Free Your Sheep podcast. That is with Anastasia, is her name, I think. She's nice. And then I made a list actually. And another one that I really like is Stitching Over the Days. And I think her name is Constance. However, she hasn't recorded in the last 6 or 7 months, so I'm not sure. But yeah, she creates some stunning projects as well, some stunning garments. So have I failed to mention anyone now? Yes, Fruity Knitting, Free Your Sheep, all these podcasts are nice. And just over 2 days ago, I stumbled across Sylvia Knits in Color. That's a really nice knitting podcast. I've mentioned her earlier already when I mentioned the Whipple Crop top. So yeah, did I forget anyone now? Yes, there are a few others. So these are only a few. There's some more that I follow as well. But yes, then also I wanted to give you also a bit of a life update, and just to talk about really what's been happening in our life for anyone who's interested. If you're just here for the knitting, then please just switch off. But yeah, just a brief update, because August has been a really busy month for us. So after episode 4, we went on holiday. We went to Turkey on a family holiday. That was really, really lovely. And that's when I finished that one sock. And I actually did bring my Brise with me, but I didn't manage to actually, I didn't knit a single stitch of my Brise when we were there in Turkey, because it was a family holiday, and I only managed to actually knit on the plane, on the socks. So yes, that was our family holiday. We came back end of July, and then August was just so busy. So many things happened. It's the summer holidays here as well, and the summer holidays are 6 weeks. It's so our eldest, our 7-year-old daughter, she's at home. She's been, I think we're in the 5th week now that she's home, and that's why I wasn't able to record sooner. It is really difficult to have your children at home, to manage with work, and it's really draining. I cannot wait for them to start back school. So that's my eldest. She will actually start junior school. And then our youngest, my 4-year-old daughter, she actually starts school this year in September, the week after next. She starts reception. Yes, reception. And so she's, yeah, as I said, she's 4 years old, and I'm really excited for them both to be going to school. And so on the Thursday yesterday, she had her very last day at nursery. And for any of your mums out there, you know, I'm sure you all know what it's like. You know, there were tears in my eyes. We've been going to this nursery for 7 years or so. Yeah, for 7 years, including because our eldest, she went to the same nursery. So that part of our life is finished, and it was really sad to see my youngest leave. But at the same time, excited for her to start school. But then it's going to be very difficult with them both being at home when it's half term on summer holiday, and yes, entertaining your children. I mean, our eldest, up until this point, there was only our eldest that stays at home in the summer holidays and half term, and it's really difficult to entertain them and to look after them. The days I work from home, because I work from home 2 days a week, and 3 days I go into the office. And so my partner, he is able to work from home 5 days a week permanently. So the days I'm in the office, he would look after her. And the days that I work from home, I would work and at the same time look after her. And it's really draining, because you do not get one single moment to yourself. Weekends, of course, it's all just family activities, and it's difficult to squeeze in an hour of knitting. It's difficult to squeeze in an hour of me time. And I'm the kind of person, I need to be alone sometimes to really be happy. If that makes sense. I suppose I'm more an introvert than an extrovert, and I don't like noise. I like my peace and quiet. And yeah, plus also it's, I mean, as much as I enjoy spending time with my children, you do need that me time, that grown-up time, because grown-ups are just not, we're just not interested. You know, our true, I mean, of course we want to spend time with our children, but I think it's a generation thing. Whereas, you know, we grown-ups, we have other interests, right? I mean, we don't play anymore. But then when your daughter comes for the past 6 weeks, and when your children, you know, when they want to play with you, and you know, and my youngest, she starts with, so you're the mommy and you're the daddy, and then you already know what's coming, and you're like, oh, you know, I love you to bits, but I don't want to play now. I just want to have some me time. So this is my life update at the moment, that it's been really tough. Yeah, it's tough. It's a generation problem, I think, because we all need space, because, you know, you have different interests. You know, our children of course have different interests. They want to play, and don't get me wrong, I love spending time with my children, and I love playing educational games and puzzles, and I do a lot of these things. But role play, you know, playing with the dollies and the Barbies, it gets a bit tiring. But yeah, that's a life update. So thankfully, so next week I'm actually off work, thank God. And hopefully I will get lots of knitting done. My children are still at home next week, and my youngest as well, because I wanted her to have a break between nursery and starting school. So we're all at home next week, and I will spend lots of time with my children. We'll take them to the zoo, and then the week after next, that's when my youngest starts school and my eldest starts junior school. And so we shall see whether I can squeeze in some knitting time next week, because then when you don't have to work, you can stay up a bit longer in the evening and just sit and knit. Let's see how that goes. So yeah, that has been all. That there hasn't even been any time for me where I can sit and read or listen to some audio books, because a few of you have actually commented and said that they really enjoyed the dive talk that I gave in the last episode, about the work of the Andrea Doria. So I haven't actually listened much to the story, to that audio book, but I shall do that soon, hopefully, when things calm down, when the kids are back at school. So yeah, that's it. That's my life update. And I once again, I just want to say thank you very much for everyone who's tuning in. This episode was a bit kind of I was all over the place, so I apologize for that. And so yeah, I hope to see you again soon in my next episode. Yes, feel free to subscribe or to like the video, and I shall see you in my next episode where I can hopefully show you a finished puff tee. We shall see. Until then, I shall see you and happy knitting. Bye.